Jake Morrison gripped the controls of his cargo ship as warning lights flashed across the dashboard. The vessel shuddered violently, throwing him against his safety harness. Something had gone terribly wrong during what should have been a simple supply run through the outer sectors. Come on, he muttered, fighting to keep the ship steady. The navigation system sparked and went dark. Through the viewport, he could see a frozen planet looming closer. It wasn't on any of his charts. The ship screamed as it hit the atmosphere. Jake pulled hard on the controls, trying to angle for a survivable landing. Ice and snow rushed up to meet him. The impact threw him forward, and everything went black. When Jake opened his eyes, his head throbbed with pain. Emergency lights bathed the cockpit in red. He checked himself over, finding only bruises and a cut on his forehead. The ship had embedded itself in a snowbank on what appeared to be a frozen wasteland. He grabbed his emergency pack and thermal coat, then forced the damaged door open. Bitter cold hit him like a wall. Snow stretched in every direction under a pale gray sky. In the distance, he spotted structures, old domes and buildings that looked abandoned. Jake trudged through the snow toward the buildings, each step difficult in the deep drifts. As he got closer, he recognized them as mining colony structures, probably decades old. At least he might find shelter there. That's when he saw the other ship. It was huge, at least 3 times the size of his cargo vessel, and clearly not human-made. The hull was dark purple with strange markings, and one entire side had been ripped open. Scorch marks suggested weapons fire. Whatever had happened here, it had been violent. Jake approached carefully, his breath forming clouds in the freezing air. Near the wreckage, something massive lay in the snow. His heart raced as he got closer. It was alive. The creature was easily 13 feet tall, even lying down. Her skin was deep purple with glowing blue markings that pulsed slowly across her arms and face. She wore armor that looked both advanced and battle-worn. Despite her alien appearance, Jake could tell she was female from her build and features. Her eyes were closed, and purple blood stained the snow around her. He should have run. Should have gotten back to his ship and tried to repair the communications. Instead, Jake knelt beside her and checked for signs of life. Her chest rose and fell slowly. She was breathing. The alien's eyes snapped open. They were bright gold with vertical pupils. Jake stumbled backward, falling in the snow. She sat up with a groan, one hand going to a wound in her side. "Wait," Jake said, holding up his hands. "I'm not a threat." The alien studied him for a long moment. Then she touched something on her neck, and when she spoke, Jake heard English, though her lips moved differently. "Human," she said, her voice deep and resonant. "You are far from your territory." "So are you, I think," Jake replied, getting slowly to his feet. "Are you hurt badly?" She looked at her wound, then back at him. "I will survive. I am Kirisha, warrior of the Valerian fleet. My ship was attacked by raiders. I managed to shoot down 2 before they damaged my engines." Jake Morrison, cargo pilot. "My ship malfunctioned. I crashed here too." He gestured toward the distant colony buildings. "There's shelter that way. Can you walk?" Kirisha stood, towering over him. Even injured, she moved with predatory grace. "I can walk. But human, you should know something. This planet is designated Frost 7. It was abandoned 40 years ago. No rescue will come quickly." Jake felt his stomach drop. "How long?" "My distress beacon is active. The Valerian fleet will investigate, but they are far. 2 weeks, perhaps 3. "Great," Jake muttered. "Just great." They made their way to the colony together, Kira moving slower than she probably wanted to admit. Jake found the main habitation dome intact, and after some work, managed to restore basic power from the old fusion reactor. Heat began flowing through the ancient systems. The dome had living quarters, a common area, and supply rooms. Jake found medical kits and managed to help Kira treat her wound using supplies that worked for her biology. She directed him, explaining what her body needed. As night fell on the frozen planet, they sat in the common area. Jake had managed to heat some of the old ration packs he'd found. They tasted terrible, but they were food. "I need to tell you something," Kira said suddenly. Her glowing markings had become brighter, pulsing with a rhythm that seemed almost like a heartbeat. My body is entering a cycle. It happens to my kind once every 5 years. What kind of cycle? Jake asked, though something in her tone made him nervous. A mating cycle, she said bluntly. My biology will begin seeking a compatible partner. It causes physical responses, fever, heightened instincts. Normally, I would be on my homeworld with access to medical facilities that can ease the process. Jake set down his food. How long does it last? 2 weeks. The same amount of time they'd be stuck together. Jake ran a hand through his hair. Is it dangerous? For you, I mean. It can be, without treatment. My scans of you show something unexpected. Humans and Valorians have compatible biology. Not identical, but close enough that my body registers you as a potential mate. Wait, what? Kira's golden eyes met his. I will not harm you, Jake Morrison. My people have honor codes. But you should understand the situation. Being near you will help stabilize my condition, but it will also be difficult. For both of us. Jake looked at this massive alien warrior sitting across from him. They were stranded on a frozen planet, stuck together for at least 2 weeks, and apparently, her biology thought he was attractive. His life had definitely taken a strange turn. Well, he said finally, I guess we better figure out how to make this work. Because neither of us is going anywhere for a while. Kira nodded slowly. Agreed. We survive together, human. The ice does not care about our differences. Outside, the wind howled across the frozen wastes. Inside the dome, 2 very different beings settled in for what would be the longest 2 weeks of their lives. Jake checked the emergency supplies one more time before trying to sleep. He had a feeling things were going to get a lot more complicated before rescue arrived. The first morning on Frost, 7 brought new challenges. Jake woke to find Kira already awake, working on repairing her armor. Even sitting down, she made the furniture look tiny. Her glowing markings pulsed steadily, brighter than they had been the night before. How are you feeling? Jake asked, heating water for coffee from his emergency supplies. The cycle progresses, Kira said simply. My temperature is elevated. I will need to manage this carefully. Jake noticed she'd moved her sleeping area to the far corner of the dome. Giving them both space, he realized. What can I do to help? Help me restore more of this facility. Keeping busy will help me maintain control. They spent the morning working together. Jake was impressed by Kira's knowledge of technology. Despite coming from a completely different civilization, she understood the principles behind the colony systems. Together, they got the water recycling working and improved the heating to more areas. As they worked, they talked. Jake learned that Valerian society was matriarchal, with females serving as warriors and protectors. Males of her species were smaller, around 7 feet tall, and focused on art, science, and raising children. So you're like a soldier? Jake asked, connecting power cables under her direction. More than that. I command a strike team. 20 warriors under my authority. We hunt pirates and raiders in the outer territories. She paused. Or we did. I do not know if they survived the attack. Jake heard the worry in her voice. I'm sure they're looking for you. Perhaps. Kira's markings flared brighter for a moment. Tell me about human warriors. Are your females also fighters? We have both. Men and women serve in our military. It's been that way for a long time now. Jake connected the last cable. Though I'm not a soldier. Just a cargo pilot. I haul supplies between stations. You are still a survivor, Kira said. That requires its own kind of strength. By afternoon, Kira's condition had worsened. Her skin radiated heat, and she moved with barely controlled tension. Jake gave her space, exploring the outer buildings of the colony while she rested. He found old mining equipment, storage rooms filled with spare parts, and in one building, a medical bay. The supplies were outdated by human standards, but he loaded what he could carry into a crate and brought it back to the dome. When he returned, he found Kira standing near the viewport, staring out at the frozen landscape. Her breathing was heavy, and the glow from her markings had intensified to the point where they lit up the dim room. "Kira!" She turned, and Jake saw the struggle in her golden eyes. "You should stay on the other side of the dome tonight. The cycle is affecting me more strongly than I expected. Your presence, your scent, it makes my instincts respond." Jake set down the medical supplies. "Is there anything in here that might help?" Kira examined the supplies, her large hands surprisingly gentle as she sorted through them. "Some of these suppressants might work. My biology is different from yours, but the principles are similar." She prepared an injection and administered it to herself. "This will help, but not eliminate the effects. What happens if the cycle continues without what your body wants? Fever will increase. I will become more aggressive, though I will fight to maintain control. After a week, my health will begin to deteriorate. The cycle demands resolution, one way or another." Jake pulled up a chair, keeping a respectful distance. "Tell me more about your people. How does this normally work?" Kira sat down, and Jake could see her visibly trying to relax. "On our homeworld, when a female enters the cycle, she chooses. If she has a mate already, they bond more deeply. If not, she may select someone, or enter a medical facility where the cycle is managed with drugs and treatment." "And the bonding, what's that like?" "Permanent. Telepathic. When Valorians bond, we share thoughts, emotions, even physical sensations to some degree. It is sacred to my people. Not entered into lightly." "That sounds intense." "It is everything," Kira said softly. "Which is why I will not allow my biology to force anything upon you, Jake Morrison. You are here by accident, not by choice." Jake looked at this powerful alien warrior, seeing the person beneath the intimidating exterior. "You could probably force the issue if you wanted to. You're a lot stronger than me." "Strength without honor is nothing," Kira said firmly. "My people have fought wars over this very principle. Consent is absolute. Even in this state, I remain Valerian. I remain myself." That night, a storm rolled across the frozen planet. Wind screamed outside the dome, and snow piled against the walls. The temperature inside dropped despite the heating system working at full capacity. Jake woke shivering around midnight. He could see his breath in the air. The heating system must have failed. He grabbed his thermal blanket and went to check the controls. Kira was already there, working on the system. "The storm has damaged the external power lines," she said. "I can repair them, but not until the weather clears." "How cold is it going to get?" "Cold enough to be dangerous for you. Your species did not evolve for this environment." Jake's hands were already numb. "What do we do?" Kira looked at him for a long moment, then made a decision. "We share heat. My body temperature is elevated from the cycle. It will keep you alive." They gathered all the blankets and created a shelter in the corner of the room farthest from the failing heating vents. Kira lay down first, and Jake hesitantly lay beside her. Her body radiated warmth like a furnace. "Thank you," Jake said, already feeling his fingers begin to thaw. "Do not thank me yet," Kira replied, her voice strained. "Being this close, it will test my control." Hours passed. The storm raged outside while they huddled together for warmth. Jake could feel Kira's heart beating, strong and steady. Despite the awkwardness of the situation, he felt safe beside her. "Jake," Kira said quietly, "tell me about your life. Distract me from the cycle." So Jake talked. He told her about growing up on Earth, about becoming a pilot, about his failed marriage to a woman who wanted him to stay planetside. He talked about the loneliness of space, the beauty of distant stars, the satisfaction of completing a difficult cargo run. Kira listened, and eventually began sharing her own stories. She spoke of her training as a warrior, the first time she led troops in battle, the friends she'd lost to raiders like the ones who'd shot her down. She told him about her home city on the Valerian Prime world, about the Crystal Mountains and Purple Seas. As dawn broke and the storm began to ease, Jake realized something had changed between them. They weren't just two survivors anymore. They were becoming friends. Kira seemed to sense it too. "When this is over," she said, "when we are both rescued and return to our peoples, I think I will miss these conversations." "Me too," Jake admitted. Outside, the first pale light of morning revealed a world buried in fresh snow. Inside the dome, human and alien held onto warmth and the fragile connection growing between them, while 12 more days stretched ahead, filled with unknown challenges and possibilities neither could yet imagine. Kira's fever had not broken, but for now, they had survived another night together. By the 5th day, Jake had learned to read the signs of Kira's condition. When her markings pulsed faster, she needed space. When she became very quiet, she was fighting against her instincts. When she focused intently on repairs or tasks, she was using work to maintain control. They'd fallen into a routine. Mornings were spent improving the colony facilities. Afternoons, Jake worked on his ship's communication array while Kira exercised, burning off the excess energy the cycle created. Evenings, they shared meals and stories. Jake was repairing a control panel when Kira approached, moving with unusual hesitation. "I need to show you something," she said. "In the medical bay of my ship. I should have retrieved it sooner, but I was avoiding it." They walked together to her crashed vessel. Inside, despite the damage, Kira navigated to a secured compartment. She removed a small device and activated a holographic display. "This is information about Valerian bonding," she explained. "Specifically about bonds between Valorians and other species. There have been 43 documented cases in our history. 12 were with humans." Jake studied the holographic images showing couples, some successful, some not. "What happened to them?" "Most succeeded. But all faced challenges. Our peoples do not mix often. Cultural differences, political pressure, biology that is similar but not identical." Kira's eyes met his. "I wanted you to understand what bonding would mean, truly mean, before my condition worsens further." "You're planning ahead," Jake said. "I am considering all possibilities. In 4 more days, my cycle will reach its peak. The suppressants are becoming less effective. I need to know what you think, what you truly want, before my body makes it impossible to think clearly." Jake sat on a piece of debris, processing this. "Do you want to bond with me?" Kira was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know if what I feel is real or manufactured by biology. That uncertainty troubles me. You are brave, kind, and resourceful. I enjoy your company. But is that enough to base a permanent bond upon?" "I cannot say." "That's the most honest thing anyone's ever said to me," Jake replied. "For what it's worth, I like you too. Not just because you're exotic or different. You're smart, funny in your own way, and you've got principles you stick to even when it's hard. But you're right. This situation, it makes everything confusing." They returned to the dome in thoughtful silence. That evening, as they prepared their meal, alarms blared from Kira's salvaged equipment. "Ship signatures," Kira said, checking the display. 3 vessels, Raider class. They are landing 2 kilometers from here." Jake felt his pulse quicken. "The ones who attacked you?" "Likely. They must have detected our distress signals. They will come looking for salvage and prisoners." Kira stood, moving to where she'd stored her weapons. "You should hide. I will deal with them." "You're in no condition to fight," Jake protested. "I am Valerian. I am always ready to fight." But Jake could see the fever in her eyes, the way she moved with less precision than before. The cycle was wearing her down. "Then we fight together," he said. "This colony, there's mining equipment everywhere. Explosives, drilling lasers, vehicles. I know how to use them." Kira studied him. "You would stand with me? You've kept me alive this long. Seems only fair to return the favor." They spent the next hour preparing. Kira checked her energy weapons while Jake gathered mining explosives and set up rudimentary traps around the colony approaches. He'd never been a soldier, but he'd worked enough dangerous sites to understand controlled demolition. The raiders arrived as night fell. 6 of them, heavily armed, wearing mismatched armor. They weren't Valerian. Jake didn't recognize the species, but they moved like predators, spreading out to surround the colony. Kira positioned herself at the main entrance, standing in plain sight. The raiders spotted her immediately. The Valerian survived. One called out in a language Jake's translator could barely process. "The captain will pay well for a warrior slave." "You will pay with your lives," Kira responded, her voice carrying across the snow. They opened fire. Kira moved with incredible speed despite her condition, her shields absorbing shots as she returned fire. 2 raiders fell in the first exchange. But Jake could see her movements were slower than they should be, her fever affecting her reflexes. 1 raider tried to flank around the back. Jake waited until the alien was crossing the spot where he'd buried mining charges. He triggered the detonator. The explosion threw the raider backward into a snowbank, unconscious. "North side," Kira called out, trusting Jake to understand. Jake grabbed a mining laser, basically a tool for cutting through rock, and fired it at the approaching raiders. The beam seared across one's armor, forcing them to dive for cover. It wasn't a weapon, but it worked. The battle was chaos. Jake had never been so terrified in his life. But watching Kira fight, seeing her protect him even while struggling against her own biology, something shifted inside him. This wasn't just survival anymore. He cared about her. Really cared. A raider got past Kira's defense and rushed toward Jake. He fumbled for another detonator, but the alien was too fast. Then Kira was there, moving between them despite being 15 feet away a moment before. She struck the raider with enough force to send them flying backward into a wall. But the effort cost her. Kira stumbled, her fever spiking from the exertion. The remaining raiders saw her weakness and pressed the attack. Jake made a decision. He ran to where he'd stored the heaviest explosives, charges meant for breaking through solid rock. "Kira, fall back to the dome now," he shouted. She understood immediately, retreating while providing covering fire. Jake set the timer on the charges, then sprinted after her. They made it inside the dome just as the explosives detonated. The blast collapsed the entrance to the canyon where the colony sat, burying it under tons of ice and rock. The remaining raiders were cut off from them, trapped on the wrong side of an avalanche. Jake and Kira stood in the dome, breathing hard. Her skin was burning hot, her markings so bright they cast shadows on the walls. The battle, the exertion, it had pushed her cycle into overdrive. "Jake," she said, her voice rough. "You need to stay away from me now. The battle, it has triggered something. My control is slipping." But Jake didn't move away. Instead, he stepped closer. "What if I don't want to stay away?" "You do not know what you are saying." "I do. I've spent 5 days with you, Kira. I've seen who you are when you're not fighting or suppressing instincts. I've talked with you, worked beside you, survived with you. What I feel isn't because of your cycle. It's because of you." Kira's eyes widened. "You would choose this? Choose me? Even knowing the bond cannot be broken." "I've made worse decisions," Jake said with a slight smile. "At least this one comes with someone who'll protect me from raiders." Despite everything, Kira laughed. Then her expression grew serious. "If we do this, it must be both of us, truly willing. The bond will not form from biology alone. It requires emotional connection, genuine choice." "Then we both choose," Jake said. "When you're ready. No rush. We've still got raiders to worry about." Kira nodded slowly. "They will dig through eventually. But you bought us time. Time to prepare, to recover. Time to be certain." Outside, they could hear the muffled sounds of the raiders working to clear the avalanche. Inside, Human and Valerian stood together, having crossed a line neither had expected. The battle had revealed what both had been avoiding admitting. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. And somehow, that made all the difference. Kira's fever remained high, but her eyes were clearer than they'd been in days. She had something to focus on beyond just survival. She had a choice to make, and for the first time since the cycle began, she felt like herself again. Jake checked their defenses, his hands steadier than before. He'd fought today, protected someone who mattered. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, they were alive and together. That was enough. The morning after the battle, Jake worked on his ship's communication array with renewed urgency. The raiders were still digging through the avalanche, though their progress was slow. He needed to contact anyone who might help before the aliens broke through. Kira watched him work, her fever stable for now. The battle had exhausted her, giving them both a brief respite from the intensity of her cycle. "You are skilled with technology," she observed. My dad was an engineer. He taught me that every machine can be fixed if you understand how it works. Jake connected 2 wires and was rewarded with a spark of power. Just need to understand the right approach. An applicable philosophy for many things, Kira said quietly. Jake looked up at her. They hadn't talked about what he'd said during the battle, about choosing her. The words hung between them, acknowledged but not yet acted upon. I found something in the colony database last night, Jake said, changing the subject. Information about Frost 7. This place wasn't just a mining colony. It was also a research station. They were studying cross-species compatibility. Kira moved closer. Show me. They spent the next hour reviewing the old files. The researchers had been ahead of their time, documenting how different species could successfully coexist and even form relationships. There were medical protocols, psychological studies, and most importantly, success stories. Look at this one, Jake said, pointing to a file. Human male, Valerian female. They bonded 40 years ago and were still together when this station closed. They had to deal with political backlash, social pressure, but they made it work. They were fortunate, Kira said. Not all such bonds are accepted. Does that scare you? Kira considered the question. I am a warrior. I have faced death many times. But the thought of my people rejecting me, of your people condemning you, that does frighten me. Bonds should bring joy, not suffering. Jake saved the files to a portable drive. Maybe we're overthinking this. We're stuck on a frozen planet with raiders trying to kill us. Worrying about what people might think seems pretty low on the priority list right now. Practical human wisdom, Kira said with what might have been a smile. The communication array suddenly crackled to life. Jake quickly adjusted the signal, trying to lock onto anything. Static filled the dome, then cleared just enough to hear voices. It was Kira's fleet. She rushed to the communicator, speaking rapidly in her own language. The conversation went back and forth, growing heated at times. Finally, Kira switched back to English so Jake could understand. They know my location. A rescue ship will arrive in 3 days. She paused. They ordered me to avoid any contact with indigenous species. When I told them about you, about the situation, the commander was not pleased. What did he say? She said that I am to maintain professional distance. That allowing a cycle to progress near an alien could be considered inappropriate conduct. She implied there would be an investigation when I return. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. You crashed here. You didn't choose any of this. How can they blame you? Military thinking, Kira said bitterly. Everything must fit proper protocol. Emotions are weaknesses to be managed. Before Jake could respond, alarms blared again. The raiders had broken through the avalanche. Their ship was landing near the colony. This time, there were more of them. 12 raiders, better armed, clearly reinforcements. They'd called for help just like Kira had. We cannot win this fight, Kira said, assessing their positions. There are too many, and I am not at full strength. Then we don't fight, Jake said, thinking quickly. We run. My ship, it's barely functional, but maybe we can get it airborne. Just long enough to get away from here. The ship will not survive atmospheric flight in its current condition. It doesn't have to survive. It just has to fly. They grabbed what supplies they could carry and ran for Jake's crashed ship. The raiders spotted them and opened fire. Energy bolts seared through the air, melting snow and exploding against rocks. Kira returned fire, covering Jake as he worked frantically on the ship's engines. He bypassed every safety system, rerouted all power to the thrusters, and prayed to anyone who might be listening. The engines roared to life. Get in, Jake shouted. They scrambled into the cockpit as raiders surrounded the ship. Jake pulled back on the controls, and the vessel lurched into the air. It wasn't graceful. The ship wobbled dangerously, trailing smoke from damaged engines. But it flew. Raider shots peppered the hull. Warning lights flashed across every panel. Jake aimed for a canyon system he'd spotted from the ground, somewhere they could land and hide. We are losing altitude, Kira warned. I know. Just a little further. The ship clipped a rock formation, spun wildly, and crashed into a snowbank at the canyon bottom. The impact threw them both forward. For a moment, Jake couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Then Kira was pulling him from the wreckage. They were alive. Somehow, impossibly, they were alive. The canyon protected them from immediate detection, but it wouldn't last long. Raiders would search for them. They needed a plan. Jake checked his communicator. The crash had damaged it, but he could still pick up signals. Kira's fleet was getting closer. So were the Raiders' reinforcements. "We have to last 3 more days," Jake said. "Think we can manage that?" Kira looked at him, this small human who kept finding ways to survive impossible situations. Her fever was rising again, the cycle entering its final stages. Time was running out in more ways than one. "With you," she said, "I am beginning to think anything is possible." They found shelter in a cave system within the canyon. It was cramped and cold, but it was hidden. Kira set up a perimeter alarm system using salvage tech while Jake inventoried their remaining supplies. That night, huddled together for warmth in the cave, Kira's condition worsened dramatically. Her fever spiked to dangerous levels. She was burning up, her body demanding resolution to the cycle. "Kira, what do you need? Tell me how to help." "You cannot," she said through gritted teeth. "The cycle must complete, either through bonding or medical intervention. Without either, my body will shut down." Jake made a decision. He moved closer, taking her massive hand in his much smaller ones. "Then we bond. Right here, right now. Jake, you do not have to do this. Rescue is coming. You could return to your life, find someone of your own species." "I don't want someone from my own species. I want you. I've spent over a week with you, Kira. You're brave, honorable, funny, and you make me want to be better than I am. Maybe it started because we were stuck together, but that's not why I'm choosing this now." Kira's eyes searched his face. "The bond is permanent. You understand this." "I understand. Do you want this?" "Want me?" "More than I thought possible," Kira admitted. "You are small and soft and completely unsuited for survival in harsh environments. You have no combat training and your ship barely functions. Yet you face raiders without hesitation, you repair technology you have never seen before, and you treat me as an equal despite our obvious differences. Yes, Jake Morrison. I want this. I want you." The bonding process was unlike anything Jake had experienced. It started with a kiss, Kira gentle despite her size. Then her markings began to glow brighter, and Jake felt something shift in his mind. It was like a door opening, letting in warmth and light and emotion that wasn't his own. He could feel Kira's thoughts, her emotions. The fever that had tormented her began to ease as their minds connected. He felt her relief, her joy, her fear that this was too good to be real. And she felt his certainty, his acceptance, his growing love for this alien warrior who had become his whole world. The bond settled into place, a permanent connection between them. Kira's fever broke, her cycle resolving naturally now that she had a mate. They lay together in the cave, minds and hearts linked, while outside the raiders searched and rescue ships drew closer. "I can feel what you feel," Jake said in wonder. "As I feel you. This is what it means to be bonded. We are separate, but also one. No regrets." Kira pulled him closer. "Only that we wasted so many days being uncertain." 3 days later, both the Valerian fleet and another wave of raiders arrived simultaneously. The space battle was brief and decisive. The Valerian warships destroyed the raider vessels, then sent a shuttle for Kira. When the rescue team found them in the cave, they found Jake and Kira sitting together, her hand resting on his shoulder, their minds connected in a way that could not be hidden or denied. The Valerian soldiers stared in shock at the bonded pair. Their commander would have much to say about this. But for now, Jake and Kira were safe, together, and bound by something stronger than military protocol or cultural expectations. They had chosen each other, and nothing would change that. The Valerian rescue ship was impressive, all sleek lines and advanced technology that made Jake's cargo vessel look like a child's toy. But as he and Kira boarded, surrounded by her fellow warriors, Jake felt distinctly out of place. The crew stared at him with open curiosity and poorly concealed disapproval. A human on a Valerian military vessel was unusual enough. A human bonded to one of their warriors was unprecedented in recent history. Commander Zaralyn met them in the medical bay. She was even taller than Kira, her armor decorated with symbols of rank. Her expression was cold as she assessed Jake, then turned to Kira. "Explain yourself, warrior," the commander said in Valerian. Jake's translator implant rendered her words in English. "We survived together. We bonded." "There is nothing more to explain," Kira replied, standing straight despite her exhaustion. "You bonded with an alien during active service. You violated protocol. This will go before the military tribunal." Jake stepped forward. "With respect, Commander, she crashed on a hostile planet and was entering a biological cycle that threatened her life. I helped her survive. We chose each other freely. What protocol should she have followed instead? Die alone?" Zaralyn's eyes narrowed. "The human speaks for you now?" "The human has a name," Kira said firmly. "And he is my bonded mate. You will treat him with the respect that status demands." The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Finally, the commander gestured to a medical station. "Both of you will undergo full medical evaluation. Then we return to the fleet. The Admiralty will decide what happens next." The medical scans confirmed what they already knew. The bond was complete and irreversible. The Valerian doctor who examined them was more sympathetic than the commander, explaining that the bond showed all signs of genuine emotional connection, not just biological necessity. "Such bonds are rare but not unknown," the doctor told them privately. "The tribunal will investigate, but if your bond is as strong as these readings suggest, they cannot order its dissolution. That would be considered barbaric." Jake squeezed Kira's hand. Through their bond, he felt her worry mixed with determination. "Whatever happens, we face it together," he sent through their mental connection. "Together," she agreed. The journey to the main fleet took 2 days. In that time, Jake learned about Valerian culture, military structure, and the political situation that made their bond so controversial. Kira had been a rising star in the military, being considered for a command position. Now, her career was in jeopardy. "Do you regret it?" Jake asked one night as they rested in Kira's quarters. "Never," she said without hesitation. "A command position means nothing if I cannot be with the person I choose. Besides, you fought raiders and kept us alive. You have your own kind of strength. I'm still just a cargo pilot. You are my mate. That makes you more than you were." When they reached the fleet, Jake was separated from Kira for the tribunal hearing. He was taken to waiting quarters while Valerian military officials questioned her. The separation was painful, both of them feeling the distance through their bond. Hours passed. Then a young Valerian warrior came to escort Jake to the tribunal chamber. It was an impressive room, with high ceilings and curved walls displaying star charts. 5 senior commanders sat in judgment, with Commander Zaralyn among them. Kira stood at attention before them. Jake was directed to stand beside her. The lead admiral, an older female with scars crossing her face, studied them both. "We have reviewed all evidence. The circumstances of your bonding are unusual but not fraudulent. However, Warrior Kira Shah, you are aware that bonding with an alien will affect your military standing." "I am aware," Kira said. "You will be offered 2 choices. Dissolution of your military service with full honors, allowing you to pursue a civilian life with your mate. Or continued service with the understanding that your mate cannot accompany you on missions and you will face restrictions on your assignments." Kira stood silent for a long moment. Jake felt her conflict through their bond. She loved being a warrior, but she loved him too. "I choose a third option," Kira said finally. "Independent contractor status. My mate and I will work together, offering our services to those who need protection or rescue in dangerous territories." The admirals exchanged glances. "That is highly irregular." "So is our situation," Kira replied. "But we have proven we work well together. He has skills I lack, and I have abilities he needs. Together, we survived what should have killed us both." The scarred admiral looked at Jake. "And you, human, what do you say to this?" Jake had never spoken to military brass before, let alone alien admirals. But he stood straighter and spoke clearly. "Where I come from, we have a saying. 2 heads are better than 1. Kira is the best partner I could ask for. If she's willing to take a chance on this crazy idea, so am I. You would leave your own people? My people are whoever cares about me. Right now, that's her. I go where she goes. The tribunal deliberated for less than 10 minutes. When they returned, the scarred admiral actually looked amused. Very well. Warrior Kira Shah, you are hereby released from active military service with full honors. You may register as independent contractors, though you will be subject to regulations governing such operators. Your first assignment, should you accept it, is to return to human space and notify this one's people that he survived. We would prefer not to create an incident by keeping a human citizen without explanation. Relief flooded through both Jake and Kira. It wasn't perfect, but it was a path forward. 2 weeks later, they arrived at the human station where Jake's company was based. His boss, a gruff man named Henry, nearly fell over when Jake walked in with a 13-foot purple alien warrior. Morrison, we thought you were dead. The insurance company already paid out your death benefits. Well, you can have them back, Jake said. I'm alive, and I'm quitting. I've got a new job. Henry looked at Kira, then back at Jake. That's her, isn't it? The one in your report. You bonded with her. I did. You always were a terrible pilot, Henry said, but he was grinning. But you've got guts, I'll give you that. What are you going to do now? We're going independent. Rescue, security, whatever needs doing in the rough parts of space. People like us, we can go places others can't. Over the next few months, Jake and Kira built their reputation. They took jobs that required both human cunning and Valerian strength. They rescued stranded ships, protected colonies from raiders, and mediated disputes between species who couldn't understand each other. They faced prejudice sometimes. Some humans saw Kira as a monster. Some Valorians saw Jake as a weak link. But they also found acceptance in unexpected places. Other interspecies couples reached out, grateful to see someone making it work. Young people from both species looked at them as proof that differences could be bridges instead of walls. 6 months after leaving Frost 7, they accepted a mission to explore an uncharted sector, mapping safe routes for trade ships. It was dangerous work, but it was theirs. They were in their ship, a proper vessel now, not Jake's old cargo hauler. Kira was piloting while Jake monitored sensors. Through their bond, they worked with a synchronization that amazed other crews. Jake, Kira said suddenly, I have news. He felt her nervousness through the bond before she spoke. What kind of news? The kind that will change everything again. I am carrying a child. Our child. Jake's mind went blank for a moment. Then joy exploded through him, cascading back to Kira through their connection. Are you serious? How is that even possible? The doctors said our species are more compatible than anyone knew. It is rare, but not impossible. In a few months, we will be parents. Jake laughed, overwhelmed. Our kid is going to be tall, aren't they? Probably, Kira agreed, her own joy matching his. They sat together in the cockpit, watching stars stream past, thinking about the future. Their child would be the first of its kind, human and Valerian, belonging to both worlds and neither. They would face challenges, but they would also have something precious. They would have parents who chose each other against all odds, who built a life together despite every obstacle. Do you think we can do this? Jake asked. Raise a child while running missions? We survived Frost 7. We survived tribunals and prejudice and space raiders. We can survive anything. Through their bond, Jake felt her certainty, her love, her absolute commitment. He sent back his own feelings, everything he couldn't always put into words. Outside, the galaxy stretched endlessly. Full of dangers, yes, but also opportunities. Places where a human cargo pilot and a Valerian warrior could make a difference. Where their child could grow up seeing possibility instead of limits. Jake set a new course, Kira approved it, and their ship jumped to hyperspace. Behind them was Frost 7, the frozen planet where everything changed. Ahead was everything else, the whole universe waiting for them. And they were ready for it. Together, there was nothing they couldn't face. Nothing they couldn't overcome. Two beings from different worlds, bound by choice and love and a connection that transcended biology. It had started with a crash landing and a desperate situation. It had become something neither could have imagined. A partnership, a family, a future. And it was only the beginning. Jake looked at Kira, seeing the strong warrior who had become his everything. She looked back at him, the small human who had proven that courage came in all sizes. "Next stop?" she asked. "Wherever you want to go," Jake replied. "As long as we go together." "Always together," Kira agreed. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, their ship flew on, carrying two souls bonded across the stars, heading toward whatever adventures awaited them next. The end.